We did it once. We gonna do it once more again, as the kids say. That's right. 2 of us changed shirts because it's now time. You're back with the Clubhouse podcast. It is season 16, episode 9, 730 times. You've been welcome to our show. Normally sports, pop culture, entertainment, and pro wrestling, but this show is going to be pre-recorded and dedicated to our annual NFC predictions that Alex puts together so well for me. Welcome. My name is Rob. I am the executive producer of the Clubhouse podcast, and sometimes the mystery t-shirt from Shirt Punch pays off.
That's a great shirt.
It's a great shirt. It's very comfortable. No free ads. Over there is my co-host and a man who also gave me a t-shirt this summer because he doesn't ever want to wear it again on July 1st. He is Alex.
That is fair. But I will say I have changed into my Giants shirt because if you can't root for a team when they're terrible, you don't deserve to root for a team.
I agree 100%. And at the bottom of your screen is the official fact checker of Sooner Gator Productions and a man who's very excited that official Diet Cherry Coke is back on the market for a limited time. You may know him as Igbunu, but his mama named him Don Ford. I'm going to call him Don Ford. Hey, man.
Not know that. I am
right,
mad with Dr. Pepper. They got rid of the cherry Dr. Pepper in the bottles. It's only in the cans now.
But Don, I'm gonna give you some homework.
Yeah.
I need you to go to your local grocery store.
Uh-huh.
And I need you to sample the new A&W product.
A&W.
It's A&W ice cream soda or ice cream sundae soda. It's
okay.
Cherry vanilla chocolate. And they have it in zero sugar. And it's fantastic.
Okay.
All right.
I'm game on
that. I can co-sign that.
But now Don's on a limited time schedule. We're going to get through as many of the NFC as we can. And whatever we don't get to, Don is going to send me his picks for. That way we've got everything for posterity. Alex, go.
So we're starting with the NFC East and the Dallas Cowboys. I gave Dak a lot of statistically accurate crap last year about being terrible. He was top 8 across the board in 2024 in statistics, so he actually outplayed my expectations. The team was still terrible because so are their fans mostly. I cannot wrap my mind around everybody who is excited about George Pickens coming to Dallas. I want to take a bet on how many games he gets suspended because he's such a head case. Now, granted, he is a kid. He is very physically talented, but since he came into the league, he's been second in yards per reception and 4th highest ADOT. That is average depth of target across everywhere. Last year, Dak actually really excelled in his deep ball accuracy and throws. So it seems like a very good match, but we know that Jerry's not smart enough to have known that, so it's probably a Steven move. But the big thing is that the defense has carried the Cowboys over the last few years, and they should be improved. However, much like we talked about in the AFC portion with Trey Hendrickson, that's going to depend on Micah Parsons actually showing up. Even if he's not practicing, that tends to go badly and lead to some soft tissue injuries. I kind of don't see a lot, neither does MGM, because they set their win total at 7.5. So for the Dallas Cowboys, who I know you love, Don, how many wins do you see that team having?
Leo, I see him above that. I'm going to give him 8. I'll be nice.
We always start matching. It annoys me. Rob, how many wins do you have Dallas?
Great minds think alike.
And call it a three-way tie because I'm saying 8 as well. It's interesting. Dallas has a very back-heavy schedule. They've got the bye in week 10, but they've got Monday night games on either side of it. They always have the Thanksgiving game. Then they've got the mid, and then they've got 2 primetime games after that. But if you look at everything after week 11, Eagles, Chiefs, at the Lions, Minnesota, Chargers, at the Commanders, closing at the Giants. That's not...
Yeah, we all have 8 wins, but it might be in the first 10 weeks.
That's what I'm saying. That last 7 weeks is going to be brutal. But, you know, when you're America's team, paid for, you know, I mean...
And was not the first or second choice.
Yeah, and I think that, but If Dallas can survive that, they can at least go to the playoffs. I don't have them winning much deeper than that, but I think all three of us have said 8.
Well, and the interesting thing, if you did watch our AFC preview, thank you for coming back. But the last time all three of us had the same number, we had it exactly correct last season. So, going from somebody who we all have as over, let's go with the New York Football Giants. And also, if you watched our AFC preview, you may have heard me talk about Brian Thomas Jr. being one of 8 rookie wide receivers to average 16.5 points in their first season. I also followed that up with every single one of those players who played a second season wound up averaging more than 18 points per game. The reason it was played a second season was because Malik Nabers is also on that list. And he might be the only thing worth having in fantasy on this team. So I have a funny suspicion that Malik Nabers is going to start looking a lot like Calvin Johnson. Great receiving numbers, next to no wins. Because somehow, despite being god-awful, the Giants wound up with the hardest strength of schedule in the NFL. And it doesn't help the improved defense when the offense is still meh. Because if you look at it statistically, Russell Wilson wasn't as good as Daniel Jones. How gross does that feel? So, I know that it's not a huge stretch to say the Giants are going to suck this year, but MGM has them at 5.5 wins. Don, how many wins do you have for the Giants?
I am going to.
And please stop saying I'm going to be
you're
daring.
gonna have it's going to be tough with Philadelphia, I feel. But still, I think in Dallas will give them a couple hee-haws. I'm going to be nice and say 5. No offense.
Okay, so
to
you
your
have them
team.
just no, you have believe me, put a pin in that because they're going to be just below the 5.5 for you. Rob, how many wins do you see for the Giants?
The Giants have the exact opposite problem of the Cowboys. First of all, they've got the bye in week 14. Yikes. Secondly, let's just run through every game real quick before the bye.
Yikes.
At Commanders.
Loss.
At Cowboys.
Loss.
Hosting the Chiefs. Hosting the Chargers.
Loss.
At the Saints. They'll get that
win.
Hosting the Eagles.
Loss.
At Denver.
Loss.
Hosting the Giants.
Loss. Wait, they're hosting themselves?
They're at the Eagles.
Loss.
And now we're into November.
Yep.
Where hosting San Francisco.
Loss.
At the Bears.
Loss.
Hosting the Packers.
Loss.
At the Giants. At
again?
The Patriots.
Wait, they're hosting. They're at themselves again?
They're at the Lions.
Okay. Loss.
At Patriots and then the bye.
Loss. I have 1 win at that point.
It'll appear at two teams deep here that the Vikings are just running through the NFC East at the end of the season because they're at the Giants in week 16. But you'll get the Raiders. You'll split with the Commanders. You'll probably split with the Cowboys because the Cowboys will either have given up at that point or just playing to finish. I'm going to go with Don. 5 games looks good to me.
It's interesting that you say that. I had the Giants, much like I had the Ravens, perfect across the board last year. 5 for 5. It pains me to say this because the life of a Giants fan for the last, I don't know, almost a decade has been, yay, we're winning. Wait a minute. We don't want to do that. It's bad to root for a team that's winning because I feel like this is going to be a really good year for that because we're only going to get 3 wins. That's right. I said 3. I have them in a tiebreaker for the first overall pick, but we'll get to that more later. So I think across the board, we're probably going to have the same team winning the division. I could be proven wrong, but let's find out. Because the Eagles do have the 4th hardest strength of schedule, but that is with Washington inflating the division matchups. The Cowboys and the Giants are not good teams. In one of those cases, terrible. Barkley should regress from all-world talent last year, but that's just because that was an all-time elite season. But Hurts is going to keep scoring because the tush push was not banned. And they lost a few impact players, but they wound up acquiring undervalued talent as they do every season. Howie Roseman should just have his name on the GM trophy until the end of time or until he decides to retire. MGM is not far off of that kind of an idea at 11.5 wins. Don, how many Eagle wins do you see this year?
Give me daring, and I'm going to say 12.
Daring. Rob.
I'm sick of agreeing with Don. So I'm going to go down to 11. They're going to win the division. You're the champs until somebody tells you otherwise. The Eagles are just right now that team. They're going to get the Chargers by the time Chargers start charging. They open the season, of course they do, on opening night against the Cowboys. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That game should always be a rematch of the Super Bowl.
I agree.
They get Minnesota early, which may benefit them. They get the Rams early, which may benefit them. Put a pin in it.
Oh, yeah, big time.
But 11. I'm going with 11. And they're 5 prime. Either side
this is one of those times I wish I would pivot, but I don't move because I do my numbers before we ever even talk about anything. And I agree with Don at 12. Like I said, I don't consider that daring. We're all within one game of each other. But our biggest surprise last year for people not named me was the Washington Commies being a good team because Jaden Daniels is awesome. However, the Commanders this year have an infinitely tougher schedule and a 2-week rest disadvantage over the season. That's almost a game per week. We talked about that in the AFC preview with the Raiders. Not a good thing. They made some really great moves to improve the lines, both on defense and offense, but the schedule and the rest is going to hurt this team. They're still good. Terry McLaurin earlier today got paid. However, much like TJ Watt, I don't know that it was actually a good deal for the team because he's a little bit older. And with him not practicing and holding in, there's a genuine chance soft tissue injuries are going to come up. Same as we said with Micah Parsons. However, MGM still has them as a winning team at 9.5. Don, how many Commander wins do you see happening this year?
Let's say 8.
8? Okay.
8.
Rob, how many wins do you see for the Washington Football Club?
Give me 1 second.
Who wants to yell 1?
They get to bye in week 12, which is not a bad deal. They've got 6 primetime games.
Mm-hmm.
Football Club they do have a very, very difficult schedule. But it's also kind of back heavy. Like I can see them winning 5 out of the first 6. Maybe 6 out of the first 7. But then it gets tough. Because leading up to the bye, Monday Night Football at Arrowhead, good luck. Sunday Night Football hosting Seattle, good luck. Then you're hosting the Lions. Then you're going overseas to play the Dolphins. Then you get the bye. Then you're back to Sunday Night Football hosting the Broncos and then at Minnesota. I'm going 7 wins for a very good Washington team. They just have a tough road to row.
This is interesting because over the first few teams in this division, we've all been pretty close to each other because I agree with Rob. I have 7 wins, and even I felt like I was at 6 and going, they could eke 1 more out. But it's a tough schedule, especially with how little rest they're going to get. But that wraps us up. I believe we all have the Eagles winning the division. We all have, Don, you would need to clarify if you think Dallas or Washington wins the tiebreaker for the runner-up. But I don't think it's going to be a playoff
easy
team
on that. Washington.
Okay. But I don't think any team but Philadelphia makes it to the playoffs out of this division.
I'd say
However,
that.
last year or last season, depending on which semantics you want to use, we had 3 teams come out of the NFC North. That was a tough division, and everybody did it at the expense of the Bears, who opens us with an interesting stat that I learned. We've talked about quarterbacks who thrive under pressure and those who crumble under pressure. How's this for a split on Caleb Williams' first year? He was the 3rd worst on off-target throws when he faced pressure. When he didn't face pressure, he was the 4th best. That is a dramatic turn. Chicago and Ryan Poles, who is an amazing GM, saw that and made massive improvements to the offensive line. And Ben Johnson, he worked with Detroit. He knows how to work on those plays to minimize risk, maximize output. The defense won't be good enough to take a massive step forward, but they're going to only need to maintain to hit the over of 8.5. But that's going to be a winning year for Chicago, which I can't tell you the last time they had one. Might be with Rex Grossman, to tell you. So they have a good balance. I'm sorry?
Heisman Award winner.
That is true. Former Florida great.
Yep.
Or you say Gator great, don't you?
Former Gator great. Yes, sir.
Okay. But the interesting thing is I feel like Chicago is going to feel like a hot and cold team. Now, I didn't make specifics on this, but if you look at their schedule for the year, they play a good team, then a bad team. Good team, then a bad team. Almost the entire year. It's really interesting how it was balanced out that way. And it's kind of middle of the road. They have the lowest total in the division at 8.5, as I mentioned. Don, how many wins do you see for the Bears this year?
It's 8.5, you said, for the line, MGM?
Correct.
That I think with the other teams in there, I'm gonna be. I feel like 8, but I just think something's gonna say, even as tough as I think Detroit is gonna win the division, it's gonna be a packed, tough division. I'm gonna say I'll be nice and give some props to Marcus, and I'm gonna say 9.
Okay. Rob, how many wins do you see for the Bears?
The Bears have the bye in week 5. They'll be 1-3 going into the bye. They play 3 games all season before the second set. One of them is the Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend. So all of their games, except 3, are 3 o'clock or later. 4 of them are in prime time. I don't see the Bears winning more than 4 games on this schedule. I just don't. This is a tough schedule, and this is not a great team.
Interesting. I love these little factoids that come in because I actually have double Rob, which is why when Don initially said 8, I kind of rolled my eyes just a little bit because I had 8 wins just barely under. Now, Don also mentioned the Detroit Lions, who maybe we all have as the division winner, maybe not. But they have the 3rd hardest strength of schedule, but they have the largest rest advantage in the NFL. The NFL did a really good job. As the rest advantages get worse, they have done well balancing it with those that have stronger schedules, unless you're the Giants. But this is going to be the biggest system versus coaches test that we have ever seen. Both offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator not only left for head coaching jobs, but they took their top assistants to be coordinators on those teams. So outside of Dan Campbell, this goes down the list. The system's going to stay the same because they promote from within, but you're losing a lot of coordinator and position coaching experience. especially with this. Now, one of the things that's going to help alleviate that, they have a lot of player continuity that have been in the system over the last few years. It's going to help them maintain being a top team, even with the tough schedule. But the biggest thing is they're going to struggle, and at least initially to me, because they lost an all-time center in Frank Ragnow retiring. Now, for those that don't know, many times the center not only just snaps the ball and blocks, they look at the lines, they see the setup, and they call the protections. I wonder if Jared Goff's going to have to pick that up with a new center. But if there is a quarterback that I trust with the head game in that scope, Jared Goff's on that list. Now, they're not going to have the dramatic benefit of playing indoor like they did last year, but they might be the only team that has fantasy goodness at every spot. Jared Goff is an underrated quarterback player. He's been top 5 with Detroit. Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 5 pick, period. My prediction of Jameson Williams leading the team in receiving last year did not come true because Amon-Ra had over 1,200 yards, but Jameson Williams was over 1,000 yards and had many receptions. People thought Isaac Tesla was brought in through the draft to replace him because there were rumors of him getting traded. However, after 2 years of everything about Jameson Williams being, well, we need him to get in the building, we need him to work, we need him to do better. This is the first year they have been glowing in their praise of Jameson Williams. And it's really easy to forget since he's the 2 behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jameson Williams almost won the Heisman and was on the list as a receiver at Alabama before Devonta Smith did it. He was awesome. There is a very real possibility he is the number 1 just in statistics. Detroit, if they can keep the system and prove that the coaches are, not that they don't matter, but that they have that continuity, they're going to keep running this division. Now, with all of the changeover, the MGM has their number deflated to 10.5 wins. Don, how many wins do you see for the Lions?
See them going, I'm going to say 11. I say over on that. It's a tough division and everything, but I think they'll win the division. I'll say 11 wins.
All right. Rob, you were the original Detroit backer.
The winner
so
of
how many do you have?
The winner of this division goes all the way. I'm going to say it.
I'm. You know what? We'll hold off on that. I want to clarify what you mean by all the way later on.
Buys in week 8. They're in prime time 4 times. I'm going to go the other way from Don, and I'm going to go under at 10.
Oh, that is interesting. Since for this panel, you have been Lions fan 1. I
just feel like that there's something this year they're going to skid a little bit, and it's going to be enough to keep them out.
I think it's going to be a little bit of tough sledding early on, like I mentioned, with the coaches and the center change, but I still have them righting the ship and winning the division at 12 games. I didn't think I was going to, but I have them winning at 12. Now, another team that should be better just based on health this season is the Green Bay Packers. Excuse me. Ziggy Booker's beloved Green Bay Packers.
Shout out Ziggy.
Jordan Love was 33rd in QB rushing and 44th in per game rushing. Now, a big part of that had to do with injury since he got hurt in that first game. But the last year, the Packers ran the ball at the 2nd highest rate. Fun fact, 1st and 3rd had Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, so figure out the math there. So, no matter what happens, Josh Jacobs should still be awesome. This is an amazing coaching staff with amazing play calling, and they put their guys in the best position. Green Bay actually has the lowest amount of turnover to their roster this year, and they've improved everywhere but center. But they still got a good replacement for their departing Pro Bowler. And we're more likely to see a balanced offense with Love now fully healed, allegedly, from his injury last year that cost him a few games and led to them using Malik Willis, who filled in admirably, in my opinion. But they're going to take advantage of, or you should take advantage of pass catchers in fantasy because with them throwing so much less last year, their value and expectation has been depressed in drafts by so much. But at the same time, don't expect touchdowns, because when they get in close, they're still going to go to Josh Jacobs because his efficiency has always been really good in close to the end zone. Plus, they have Marshawn Lloyd, a running back they drafted, now healthy, mostly. So, Green Bay is middle of the pack in MGM's expectation at 9.5. Don, how many wins do you see for the pack?
See them going right under at 9.
All right.
Again, it's
Rob?
a tough division. They're going to bang up each other and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really tough division. Rob, how many wins do you see for Green Bay?
Green Bay has an early bye in week 5. They've got 4 primetime games. 2 of them could be the highest rated games of the year. Monday night, November 10th, as they host Philly. And then the other one being, I just lost it. Where'd it go? Just lost it. Where did it go? Sunday, October 26th, as they go to Acupuncture Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Those are both going to be solid games. I'm going to go a little bit lower than Don. I think they win 8.
All right. This is another one of those. We're really close to each other. Don and I have the same number at 9 wins. Now, the surprise team, and one I got very, very wrong last year outside of Justin Jefferson, was the Minnesota Vikings. Mike Kukla's beloved Minnesota Vikings, that he reminded me how wrong I was every single win. So they almost won the division last year. It came down to the last game between them and Detroit. Aaron Jones was great for fantasy, but the interesting thing on him is he failed on his goal-to-go carries, so advancing 75% of the time. It's why they brought in Jordan Mason, who is one of 2 running backs to gain 10-plus yards on over 15% of their carries. I don't even remember him playing much. It might be a smaller sample size because he was the one filling in for McCaffrey last year, but when he did, he was a monster. I feel like Minnesota is going to be trying to run an awful lot, protecting J.J. McCarthy in his first year, replacing Sam Darnold. But Sam Darnold, who was, to put it kindly, failing every other year of his career, put up massive career highs for O'Connell. And they were still, I know we're comparing college to pros, still lower rates than McCarthy had averaged at Michigan when he wasn't even throwing the ball, but he was efficient and accurate and elevated everybody around him. They do have the 5th hardest strength of schedule, but it's boosted by arguably the toughest division in the NFL right now. Minnesota overcame that last year. They are even in MGM's prediction line at 9.5 wins. Don, how many wins do you see for the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, again, this is going to be a tough division.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to say 9.5. I'm going to go under on that and say 8.
All right. Rob, how many wins do you see for Minnesota?
First of all, shout out Mike, even though he reposts none of my reviews, but that's okay. This team goes.
Sorry, sir, you dropped some salt.
This team goes into the bye in week 6, could be undefeated at that point.
Very well, good.
Hosting the Bears, hosting the Falcons, hosting the Bengals, at the Steelers, hosting the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad run.
You know, with a 5th hardest strength of schedule, I think I know what's coming.
Then, by the way, those last 2 games are overseas. Then they go to the bye. This team's going to win 12 games.
I just realized what's hilarious about this. So the Vikings, I think, are the first team to have back-to-back weeks in the UK.
I think it's been done once before.
Well, I think there's been back-to-back games, but there was a bye in between. I think this is the first time it's back-to-back weeks, especially in 2 different locations. But remember, the Vikings were also known for invading Britain. This is hilarious to me. We may have to add that to the list along with Patriots jerseys in London.
Patriots jerseys London still one of the funniest things of all time.
Absolutely. And you said 12 wins?
I said 12.
All right. It's interesting. I thought I was going to be the one that had the Vikings winning the division, but as long as I looked at it, I could only get to 11 wins and being one behind the Lions. But it looks like you have the Vikings winning the division, sir.
I do.
So we're going to put a pin in that. Right?
Yep.
And now we go from the toughest division to the NFC South. Yeah. So, interesting note, Michael Penix Jr., not the other name that appeared on TV last week, had the highest rate of deep ball passes at 20-plus yards in the NFL last year. That also led to Drake London having 100 catches, which was the most by a Falcon player in the last decade, except for Julio Jones's big 2018. Now, I also kind of want to split this into two aspects because the team was pass heavy for the first few weeks. And then Kirk Cousins threw 509 yards on a Thursday against the Bucs. After that point, Bijan Robinson averaged 22.8 fantasy points per game after that. I would take him 1 or 2 overall in any draft. Even the ones where Ziggy set up weird scoring for bonuses instead of PPR, but that's another thing. Calling Ziggy out on that. But some other facts for Bijan in 2024. He's the only non-quarterback to have 10 games where he scored more than 20 points in fantasy. The only one. And he's also the only running back to be top 5 in both rushing and receiving. That used to be the Christian McCaffrey territory. So you see where I'm going with this because McCaffrey can't stay healthy. But Bijan has outside of a headache. The only thing that could really help Atlanta truly develop is their overhauled defense. And it's going to determine how far they go as much as Penix's development. They have a middling expectation with MGM because the line is at 8.5 wins. Don, how many wins do you see for Atlanta?
They will easily go over that. Not much, but I still see them going over that. And I honestly think they're going to be the number 2 in this division, and they got a shot at a wild card. I'm going to give them 10.
Okay, 10 wins.
Because I think after 10 wins, because after Tampa Bay, New Orleans is going to be in the gutter in the bye with Cleveland for the wild card spot. The first round, the first pick of the draft. And Carolina ain't going to be doing much this year, so I'm going to give them again second place in the division, possible wild card.
I have a feeling that our order in this division is going to be the same across the board. But Rob, tell me if I'm wrong.
This team's going to stink on ice.
Oh,
5 primetime games. The bye's in week 5, so they've got to go a long way after this. They are thankful that the AFC North exists, so they don't have to be the worst division in football. Or is that the AFC South with the Colts? It's the AFC North.
South.
The South.
No. The North has Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and
the South has the Colts. Can we fix the geography here?
It's always the South. It's the South that sucks.
The South on both sides are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
This team's going to get 6 wins, and I'm still not sure that's the number.
I thought I was going to be too low, especially after Don taking 10. But we have a nice little curvature on us because I have 8 wins. So they're just below for me. Now, Don said that he thinks Carolina is going to be really bad, and they're next up on our list. I bet we're all going to have Carolina in 3rd, but we'll get there. But the craziest part is Bryce Young got benched for Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, last year. After he came back, he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback and improved his rushing monstrously. If you want my long shot pick, because I love Cam Ward, I love Ashton Genty, Tet McMillan might be your rookie of the year. Now, Part of that is it's going to depend on other more popular people floundering or even just not being electric compared to him. But he is a monster who should get fed repeatedly. Do you want my highest of praise, Rob? Because I know this is going to hit you with the team.
All right.
Ted McMillan is the next Mike Evans. Book it.
Woo! That's
Yeah,
HSO.
that's high praise, but I feel it. Now, the defense cannot possibly be as bad as last year, but it's still terrible. It was historically bad last year. It's just going to be really bad. But for fantasy purposes, if that's what you're tuning in for, look for Bryce Young to be a good deep sleeper, maybe a second or third quarterback in super flex leagues. Ted McMillan, I am going to try and get everywhere I can for the right price. And the one that might surprise you is Adam Thielen. Playing the slot, getting the touchdowns, being able to accrue points quickly based on high-value targets, even though he's 100 years old and might only catch something and fall into the end zone. It's really going to depend on Ted McMillan's development in that area. But like I said, he's the next Mike Evans. Now, MGM does not have a high opinion here. They have him at 6.5 wins. Don, you said Carolina is going to be terrible. Do you have him at more or less than 6.5?
We give them a little bit under that, and I'm going to put them at 5.
Okay.
But third
Rob?
in the division, not the gutter of the division.
Yeah, I think we all have him at third. Rob, how many wins do you have for the Panthers?
First of all, shout out to my people that live in Charlotte. I got some people out there that I love dearly. Their only primetime
He has good people.
Their only primetime game is in week 12. And if you need some extra time to prepare your Thanksgiving feast on November 24th, use that time because they have to go to Levi's Stadium that night. Oh. They might lose by 100.
Oh.
The bye, and they still don't have the bye till 2 weeks later. I agree with Don. This team wins 5 games.
And once again, we all go under, but I gave them one more win at 6. Maybe it's just my love for Ted McMillan, but I wish I could bet on his career arc right now. All right. Just when you think it can't get worse. Welcome to New Orleans. Tyler Shuck. Spencer Rattler. Dear God, they need to trade for Jameis or somebody who can play competent quarterback. Otherwise, this entire team is going to be awful. As Rob pointed out during a draft last week, Alvin Kamara might be the only option for fantasy points, but it's going to be volume and it's going to be ugly because he's all they got. Before I statted everything out, my statement was that the Saints will have the least amount of wins this year, despite having the third easiest schedule. And part of it is having a 2-week rest disadvantage. It's among the worst on rest disadvantage, despite the easiest strength of schedule or third easiest strength of schedule. And their weakest opponents all have long rest advantages, ... except the Giants. So, MGM agrees that the Saints will be terrible. They set the line at 4.5 wins. Don, is this one of the teams you think is going to be fighting for the first overall pick?
I can put them down as 2.
2
wins.
Which 2 teams do they beat?
I don't even know. I have to look at their full schedule.
It's 2, but we're not going to know when. That's a good way to put it. Rob, how many wins do you see for New Orleans?
Bye in week 11, no primetime games. 0. When was the last time New Orleans didn't have any primetime games? I'm going to go one more than Don just because I can at 3.
I love that somehow at 4.5, we're still all under at 2 and 3 because I agree with Rob. I have 3 wins, and I think one of them's the Giants. That's the only one I'm putting money on. But The entire division can't be terrible, can it? Because there's Tampa Bay, who continues to excel in the face of adversity against everything else. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bake Show. I love continuity with teams. There's not much turnover with the players in this scope, at least on offense. Plus, your offensive coordinator was your passing game coordinator last year under Liam Cohen, and he's now head coach in Jacksonville, despite being a wild goof. They might actually get better with Chris Godwin being injured. He can take his time. He can heal up. He was awesome last year before the injury, but it also allowed them to be smart and draft Egbuka. Now, you know how much it pains me to talk well of a Buckeye, but Egbuka might be one of the most clean, crisp route runners to come out of college in a decade. He is a carbon copy, but faster and younger of what Godwin did for this team, while Mike Evans got the yardage, got the TDs. And Egbuka might be better at this point in their career, even if Godwin's healthy. But I want you to think about the fact that Godwin is supposed to be back in week 6. Now, allow me to put it in this frame of mind for you. Their offensive coordinator was their passing game coordinator. And you'll have Baker Mayfield, who can throw to Cade Otton, a really good tight end. Mike Evans, legend. Chris Godwin, many-year proven receiver. And arguably one of the hottest young receivers, not named Tet McMillan, in Emeka Egbuka. Their defense is bad, but they made some key signings that should have them lapping the wins in the NFC South. But any game outside the NFC South, that means they're going to have to put up points. Fantasy delights all around. Now, interestingly enough, despite having the highest win expectation according to MGM, the line is still only 9.5 because the NFC South is facing a tough road. Don, how many wins do you have for the Tampa Bay Bucks this year?
They'll win the division, and they'll be tough this year. I'm gonna. What's the line again? Did you say
9.5?
Oh God, they'll clobber that. I'm gonna possibly say 12.
Okay, is 12 what you want to put down?
Yeah, I'm gonna say 12.
I like that. Rob, your beloved Buccaneers.
They've got the bye in week 9, and then they could potentially go on a run when you look at the schedule after the bye. Patriots, Bills, maybe not. Rams could go either way. Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins. Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to go under, but barely at 9. And 3 of those are primetime games.
I find that interesting because Don has the most wins for Tampa Bay at 12. You are by far the lowest at 9 because I have them at 11 wins, and even I felt like I had to flip a couple of games to put them down that low. I was thinking they're going to run this division. They're going to sweep this division again, and they're 6 right off the top. But 11 wins is where I have them at. All right, guys. We might actually get in under the hard cap because we're already at the NFC West.
Boy.
The Arizona Cardinals. The Desert Jewel. James Conner has averaged 1,000 yards and 8 TDs every year he's been with the Cardinals. Not trying to rub it in on Pittsburgh, just saying. But he's literally never been lower than 15th in fantasy rank during his time in Arizona. But the big one that blows my mind more than anything else, everybody wanted to talk about Brock Bowers having this amazing year for the Raiders, setting rookie records as a tight end, having the most catches, all of that. What people don't realize is that Trey McBride only had 1 less catch and 48 less yards than Brock Bowers. And guess what? He did it in 1 less game than Brock Bowers. And even though he only scored 2 touchdowns, and that has more to do with their red zone offense than anything else, he was still the tight end 2 in fantasy. Making that even crazier, Trey McBride was tackled inside the 5-yard line 5 times. This should improve Kyler's numbers across the board as a passer, especially with the development of Marvin Harrison and being a year better. If you bumped up Trey McBride to just 4 touchdowns, wildly doable for a tight end that's involved as much as he is, he would have managed to have the same points per game as CD Lamb, who is a top 4 pick in almost every draft. That is insane. Now, the remade defense is really what's going to boost or hurt this team. They might need some time to gel, but I think they should be second in the division and a wild card team. MGM doesn't necessarily agree and only has them at 8.5 wins. But what do you think, Don? How many wins for the Cardinals?
I hate to say they're going to be the run of this division. I think they're going to come in 4th. I'm putting them at 6.
Okay. Rob, how many wins for the Cardinals?
Cardinals have the bye in week 8. They got 3 primetime games this year. My problem with Arizona is they're just one of those teams I don't trust. With the Chargers, you get what you get. The Chargers going Charger. We get that. Arizona is the most unpredictable team for me every year, but I'm still only giving them 8 wins.
Okay. Interestingly enough, looking deeper into the schedule, how it's structured and what they've done with this team, I have them at double digits. I have them at 10 wins. And like I said, second in the division and a wild card. A team I'm not very high on is the Los Angeles Rams. And I didn't even want to write notes about it because I'm not even sure Stafford plays this year, with as bad as that sounds. He has a disc that is acting up, completely out of place. Depending on when you ask, it might not even exist. I cannot. And Puka Nacua is going as a first-round draft pick almost everywhere, if not second. Devontae Adams is expected to elevate the Cooper Kupp role. Kyron Williams just got paid. He's still good. But Jimmy Garoppolo might be your starting quarterback. And I want you to think about this. I mentioned in the last episode about Devontae Adams saying, I need to get the out of here with the Raiders. Do you remember who the quarterback was?
I do not.
It was Jimmy Garoppolo. He blamed Jimmy Garoppolo for throwing bad passes and getting him murdered, and he wasn't wrong. Now, after signing a contract with the Rams, he might be stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo again. I hate everything Rams this year. But MGM has them at 9.5 wins. Don, how many wins do you have for the Rams?
I think it's going to be a tough division between them and San Fran. I think they're actually going to take the division in the end, but just barely over San Fran, but I'm going to put them at 10.
Rob, how many wins do you have for the Rams?
I disagree. 8 is the bye. 4 is the prime time. 6 is the win total.
Whoo! I thought I was going to be low at 7. But I mentioned in the last that I think the Titans were going to be the most improved team in the AFC because it's going to be hard for San Francisco not to be the most improved team overall with as bad as last year went, as we predicted. But because of how it went, they have the easiest strength of schedule. But here's where the kicker comes in. No pun, not Jake Moody. They have the easiest strength of schedule and the 4th biggest rest advantage. It's a perfect storm for a team to go on a massive run. It is going to be the biggest turnaround in the NFL. Their 4th best rest advantage is also a misnomer because the only disadvantage they have the entire year is a full week. That's the only game they have a disadvantage in, and it's a massive number, so that's why it looks more balanced, but they still have the 4th biggest rest advantage. But if you want something for fantasy, Juwan Jennings has been dealing with some injuries, but he's also kind of saying, ooh, my leg kind of hurts because I want more money. In the games that Jennings played a full set of plays in there, he averaged 17.9 points per game. They traded Deebo Samuel to Washington. and he showed up looking about the size of a hippo. But if you took that 17.9 points per game, Juwan Jennings would have been the wide receiver 7 across the season. MGM has them winning the division with a line set at 10.5. Don, you said that you had them losing the division or winning the division against the Rams.
They're barely going to be, they'll get the wild card, but I see them with 10 also. But LA will get the tiebreaker and get the division.
Gotcha. Rob, how many wins for the San Francisco 49ers?
The San Francisco 49ers have one of the easiest schedules in the league, if you look at it. A lot of teams that
fourth easiest statistic
most teams want to play. They don't get the bye till week 14, but it doesn't matter with this schedule. They got 5 primetime games. They're going to win 11.
You know, it's interesting. Rob, you and I are both over. Hold on to your butts. San Francisco wins 14 games this year.
All right.
I'm putting that down right now. So, wrapping up the NFC West, we'll try to speed through this for you, Don. The Seattle Seahawks. Kenneth Walker can't stay healthy. Zach Charbonnet can't do everything. But if you have the Seattle running game, they are always really good. And if you combined them into one player with just the games they each started, that was running back 6 in fantasy last year. Jackson Smith-Njigba worries me, but he might be the only wide receiver for them to really throw to because Cooper Kupp, I think, no pun intended, is on his last leg. Now, there's some talk about other players out there, but I don't think anything's going to happen. I still think Sam Darnold was a product of Kevin O'Connell rather than actually skill. One that I really like, because Sam Darnold has a history of throwing to tight ends, is their draft pick Elijah Arroyo, who led to Noah Fant, last year's starter, getting cut early in the process. He was also a monster at Miami for Cam Ward, so he has the skill set. And that running game should continue because Clint Kubiak is the underrated hire of the year. Kubiak coaches always know how to run and know how to maximize blocking and run lanes. MGM has them slotted to have the least amount of wins in the division at 7.5. Don, how many wins do you have for the Seahawks?
8.
8?
8.
Okay. Rob, how many wins do you have for Seattle?
They've got the bye right in the middle of the season at week 8. They got 3 primetime games. I agree with Don. 8 is where I'm at.
It's funny that we finish this way because we all have 8 wins. Now,
I think we started with the first team. We had all 3 right, and then the same. And I think the last we had all right.
Yep. All right. Don, what is your NFC Championship game?
I think it's going to be Detroit and Philadelphia.
Detroit. Do you say Detroit over Philadelphia or Philadelphia winning?
Here's the thing. They're the champs until somebody tells them different. And I think that it's going to be a barn burner of Detroit. And my heart is saying Detroit, but my mind is going to say Philadelphia in that game.
Okay. So you have Philly over Detroit?
Yeah.
All right. Rob, what is your NFC matchup?
You are the champs until someone tells you otherwise, and the Minnesota Vikings will tell Philly otherwise.
I dig that. I dig that a lot. However, I do not have Philadelphia like you gentlemen, but I do have San Francisco over Detroit. Now, that makes my matchup Baltimore and San Francisco, I believe, for the second year in a row. 0-2 last year, gonna get it this year. Don, you have Philadelphia versus Buffalo. Who do you got winning that Super Bowl?
Really, it's going to happen for the Bills. I think it's their
It's finally going to happen for Buffalo?
Yeah, after the 4 and the 80s and 90s or whatever and all that, it's their year.
All right, Rob. You have the all-North battle between Buffalo and Minnesota. Who's going to get their first Super Bowl win?
Someone's going to keep a knocking, but they can't come in. And a team that's not going to come in continues to be the Buffalo Bills because I said whoever wins that division wins the whole thing. I'm sticking with it. Minnesota, this is your year.
I feel like I'm being boring, but I think we're going to have the reverse of the Joe Flacco MVP, and San Francisco will finally beat Baltimore in the Super Bowl. Gentlemen, that wraps up the NFC and our NFL preview. Thank you so much for being with me.
There's a QR code over next to Alex's head. Scan that. Find out about all of our socials. You can follow me on your socials if you'd like. Everything is yes, that Rob Irvin. That is spelled ERVIN.
I'm Vexploit on all social media. If you'd like to help out the show, please, again, go to the Clubhouse podcast on ProWrestlingTees.com. We got a lot of different designs and a lot of different color options within those. If you have a design you'd like to submit or a tweak you'd like to see, every artist gets paid 100% of the proceeds for every shirt sold in our store.
Make those awesome shirts that even make me look good. ProWrestlingTees.com/cheap podcast. At Twitter, I'm Igbunu. IGBN you. Direct this match to your place. Email me, Don, to clubhousepodcast.com.
Email Don for information on how we can come to a live remote show. We got quite a few of them coming up. Stay by the channel. You can email me questions, comments, concerns. Tell me to go pound sand. I am Rob at the clubhousepodcast.com. Charlotte Marshall is on Pinterest because we're morally obligated to say that. Our normal live shows every Thursday night at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific is your one-stop shop for all things sports, entertainment, pop culture, and pro wrestling. And we'll be back on track at least September 4th because the week we record this will be our fantasy draft, which is why we're not doing a normal show this week. So until next time, for Alex, for Don, for the Empire, I'm Rob. Clubhouse is closed. Brittany Palmer, get your picks in.
And guys, I'm out. See you then.
This is a Stolen Water Media production.